Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on the ChaddyTheChump channel, and today we are going to be talking about a very busy weekend that this weekend was in boxing. Right, we had 3 shows, one in Ireland, one in England and one in the USA, so a pretty good weekend because there was a lot of fights on, and a pretty hectic weekend with a lot to talk about. So we'll talk about each individual show, and without further ado, let's get right into it. So first we'll talk about Friday night's show, which was MF Pro's very first show on the Zone, which was Mick Conlan versus Kevin Walsh. Now, the fight itself, pretty controversial. It wasn't a very sort of battle or war of a fight. It was more to sort of counter punchers facing each other, which doesn't really make for a very exciting fight. However, very controversial because Kevin Walsh gets the victory, and I think a lot of people, including myself, thought Mick Conlan probably did do enough to get the victory. And Kevin Walsh, I mean, he looked like he knew he won, right from the ending of the bell and right from the end of the fight. And even during the fight, he was pretty confident at that end. And I was thinking, man, you should probably, focus on winning these rounds because right now you're not winning. However, he did get the victory on split decision. To be fair, right, maybe you could argue, right, it's not like a robbery of robberies. It's probably just the wrong decision, which, of course, it's up to the judgment of the judges. So, it is what it is. And, Mick Conlan has now retired, which, he wouldn't have retired if he won because there would have been a big fight coming up. But Kevin Walsh still got a career ahead of him. It'll be exciting to see what he does, right? Will he just go straight into the Shoo Carrington fight? Or will maybe a UK promoter put one of the fighters in against him and hope they win and get a world title shot? We'll see. I had the idea that possibly Kevin Walsh might sign with someone like Zuffa Boxing. This is just my idea. I haven't heard anything. But it'd be a good snatch up for Zuffa if they were to get him, because he's in line for a world title shot and he's undefeated. He looks good on BoxRec, and although he didn't look great against Mick Conlan, who knows, man, who knows? And, this is boxing, anything can really happen. So, does he give Shoo Carrington, an absolute 50-50 fight? Probably not. I definitely think Shoo Carrington would win. But, who knows? Does he fight him? Does he fight someone else? I guess we'll have to find out. But Mick Conlan with a great career that has come to an end. Alright, now we'll talk about Saturday night's UK show in the Copper Box Arena. George Liddard versus Tyler Denny, and this was the complete opposite of the Mick Conlan versus Kevin Walsh fight. This fight was an absolute war. What a fight. Possibly, so far we're, a quarter into the year or so. And this is definitely a potential right now for, into the quarter, one of the best fights of the year, right? It was a complete war. And to be fair, these UK domestic shows that aren't massive usually do deliver good fights. Even on the undercard, that Jimmy Sains fight against Osaze, that was a brilliant fight as well. And Viciola did pretty well on that co-main event as well. He didn't get rid of his opponent in Gills, which I thought he probably could have done better and maybe knocked him out and looked the part, but he absolutely dominated the fight. And the Liddard Denny fight, this was a very, very good fight. And, midway through the fight, Denny was winning some rounds, through the middle. At the start, it was all Liddard. And, in round 2, I thought possibly Liddard could end Tyler Denny like Hamza Shiraz did, but Denny got more into the fight, and he didn't really throw many jabs. Denny his tactic was to get in the pocket and throw some massive hooks, which at times he did well at, and those shots were big, and Liddard, he took them like an absolute champ. I mean, that chin is definitely a very, very good one. He's not got a glass jaw. Now, I don't know how much power Tyler Denny has. However, even if he's not got that much power, he took a lot of clean shots, Liddard. So, you know, he should be proud of his performance. And as well, I thought he did win the fight. And the judges thought the same and gave him the victory. I think it was unanimous decision to Liddard, which is the right winner. And it's a good learning experience as well for Liddard, because he went through a war and he deserves the victory. Who's next for Liddard? I mean, this fight at the Copper Box was actually supposed to be Liam Smith. That didn't happen. Smith wasn't ready, which would have been very much a bigger fight, because Liam Smith is quite a big name. But it probably would have been, you know, sort of the retirement fight for Liam Smith, because he's probably on the way out. Will that fight still happen? Yeah, it could happen. There is a good possibility that it happens. In terms of other names, does, you know, Liddard go to European, or does he skip that entirely? That super middleweight division, you know, it's alright. It's not mega stacked, but it's alright. So maybe a Liam Smith win would get his name out even more, and then you start selling out the Copper Box, similar to like Johnny Fisher. So I guess we'll have to see. But a very exciting future for George Liddard, and I'd love to see Tyler Denny in more fights, because he is a very entertaining fighter to watch. And finally, we'll talk about the second Matchroom show this weekend in Orlando at the Caribe Royale, which was Carlos Ademez taking on Ammo Williams. Now, before this fight, I did think it was a mismatch, right? It was originally scheduled to be on that TOV Shakur undercard, and Carlos Ademez had to pull out. I thought I knew that this was a mismatch, right? And that's no fault of either Carlos Ademez or Ammo Williams, because Ammo, of course, coming to win. And Ademez is the boogeyman of that middleweight division. I mean, all the champions are sort of boogeymen, but especially Ademez, right? Ademez, I remember when he fought Shiraz, and that was a draw, but that was a robbery, because he definitely won that fight, and Shiraz got away with one. And I think even if you ask Shiraz now, he would say, yeah, I lost that fight, and Shiraz then moved up to super middleweight. But Ademez gets the victory quite easily by unanimous decision. He puts Ammo Williams down during the middle of the fight, and it's a shutout performance for Ademez, which, you know, isn't unexpected from him. And kudos to Ammo Williams taking the fight, but it would have been one of the upsets of, you know, the year if he had actually beat Ademez. Now, who does Ademez fight next? Well, I think a lot of people are talking about a Lara unification fight, which would be very good, because that's the only thing I see happening, right? I don't know. There's no one really who's going to threat Ademez in that division. Yanni Beck, of course, has been going through all his drug issues. So, I don't know if he's been stripped. Yeah, I think he might have been stripped. But that fight, Ademez versus Lara, is a great matchup for that middleweight division. And hopefully we see that fight in action. But yes, that was the weekend of boxing. A very good weekend with a lot of fights. And next weekend, I'm very excited. Itoma returns, probably the biggest prospect in world boxing right now, against Jermaine Franklin at the Co-op Live, a stacked undercard as well. And that's when British boxing is really coming back, because then after that we've got Chisora Wilder, then Fury v Makhmudov, then Callum Smith, David Morrell. and then the 25th is in Paris, and then shortly after that we've got Dubois Wardley as well. So British boxing is returning fully after a short little break which nobody likes. So anyways, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you tune in to my Itoma Franklin predictions. That'll be out later on in the week, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.